Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Happy Friday to everyone, and congratulations on making it through the full 8 week webinar program. I know 8 weeks is a lot, but we're glad that we could have those of you who have joined us for uh, multiple sessions, and hope you've been getting value out of it this first round of webinars that we've done. Today, we're going to talk about website and technology. When you're a new nonprofit, when you're a small organization, as we've talked about a lot in this series, you have got to wear a lot of hats. There's a lot of things on your plate. There's a lot of things you're responsible for. Website is often one of them. But there's also ways that we can use technology and use some free or affordable tools that are available to automate things, to make you more efficient with your time, so that you can not only maximize the impact that you're having, but also maximize the limited resource you have of your own time and the time of your volunteers and the time of your board members. We'll start off by talking about websites, but first I'll give you a little background in my experience for those of you who are new on the line with us. My name is Hampton. I'm the creator of Tiny Opera House. I have a background in startup nonprofits and running small organizations, and have had to do this kind of figure everything out on your own learning curve before, and that goes not only into how to run good programs and how to produce good financials, but how to manage the website, how to manage the social media, how to do everything that goes into running a successful organization. And I have been fortunate to have picked up some tips and tricks from smarter people than me about technology integrations and things that are available that make it easier to do more with less time. And that's what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to start off with talking about the website. Website is probably the most important piece of your branding, of your marketing. It overlaps with both of those. It's how people will look to see if you're a real thing. We talk about that a lot in this series, how when you're small, when you're getting started, it's important to look like you're a real organization when donors or event attendees are going to look you up. And the technology for this has come a long way in a fairly short period of time. The first websites that I was involved with, this is back, they had Dreamweaver and everything was in code, and you had to find really smart computer nerds to do this for you. Now that landscape has changed, and we'll talk about that. So your website is the first view into your organization for most people interacting with your nonprofit. And because of that, it needs to convey who you are, what you do, and also why you matter. So this is reinforcing your brand, reinforcing that sales pitch that we talked about in the branding webinar. You want people to look at your website and come away with an understanding of not only who you are, but why the work that you're doing is important and why they should be supporters in some way of your organization. And it should make it look like you're a real thing, right? You should make it look like that you're more established and more accomplished than maybe you are right now. This is, again, is a through line that we've talked about a lot. How do you look like you're a established, successful, vibrant nonprofit when you're getting started out and you don't have a huge track record of event successes and fundraising and things like that. Your website is a great way that you can kind of get ahead and create the impression that you're much more successful than you maybe are right now. And of course, we'll all get there at some point, but the website is an easy way to kind of close that gap, because this is what people are going to see of your organization on the most part. It's going to be, they're going to go to your website and they're going to look you up and see who you are there. So I want to talk about having someone else do your website for free, It seems like a great option. There are lots of organizations I know that have done this, uh, especially in this era where it's a lot easier to do website maintenance and website building. Uh, it's not as specific of a task anymore. So there's lots of people who know how to do it, right? So what's wrong with just having a volunteer who wants to do the website for free? I think you can, of course, have someone else do the website on a volunteer basis, but uh, there's other things to think about that make it really complicated when someone else has control of your website. What happens if they leave? Someone doing it for free doesn't have an incentive to really keep doing it. What happens if you need something from them and they're not available? What happens if the website goes down in the middle of a fundraising campaign and they're on vacation or they're traveling on the road? What happens if they use some sort of weird thing to build the website? What if they're using like a Joomla platform or something that is it can be industry standard, but is not necessarily user friendly and is difficult to then find someone else to go in and manage the website if they leave. And there's actually even ownership issues. If someone else sets up the website, did they do the domain on their own account? Did they register and keep the templates on their own account? They might actually end up owning the website. So if they leave, they could take the domain with them, either out of intention or even just by accident. You can also pay someone to do your website. This again is cheaper than it used to be. It does look like an attractive option, but you still have issues with responsiveness. Someone's not necessarily always available when you need them. You may have issues with the ownership of the website, and ultimately, you are not able to control the content, control the timing, control the messaging in the same way if you were having to work through another person to do website maintenance and website management. And ultimately, is that really what you want to spend your money on when you're getting started? The percentage that would go to a web developer is pretty significant in the beginning. Luckily for us, and this, as if you can tell from my tone and the line of questionings, I'm a huge supporter of figuring out how to do the website on your own. And some people don't want to do that. It's a new thing to learn, but websites are really easy now. And the benefits of having ultimate control of the website, having timely information and timely adaptation to things that are going on in the organization, those are things that are really worth the learning curve. The learning curve is a lot shallower than it's ever been. It doesn't take that long to learn how to do a website, and we'll talk about some ways to start off a little bit quicker, some things you can use to make it easy. Some of the reasons that websites are really easy now is because there are a lot of affordable, user-friendly options that are designed for people that don't have a coding background. Almost all of these require no actual HTML coding or any sort of fancy computer footwork. There's also a lot of great all-in-one platforms. And that's what we'll talk most about. These are services that not only have the templates and the design for you to use for the website, but also do the hosting. So you can register your domain name through them. It makes it a lot easier when you're getting started. Then it makes it easier than having a separate hosting plan, like as a HostGator or something like that, where you pay for the domain management and then you've got a separate thing that does the templates and the web software. There are some great options now for those being integrated, and it's super easy and it makes it super cheap. There's also a lot of great templates you can get now if you're going the route of having a host or having a host host the domain and loading in a software like WordPress or something like that on that. It's a little bit more technical. We're not going to get too much into that today. But if you go that route, there's tons of really great responsive templates that you can load in. It makes it easy to get up and running and manage this yourself. Some of the popular platforms are Squarespace is probably the most popular that I've run into of people using. They kind of all have the same services. They're all able to host a domain and give you a lot of cool template options. Wix is another one. Weebly, they do the same thing. If you're going the route of loading your own theme or your own sort of style for the website, you can do that through WordPress. They're now trying to make it more easy because they kind of got left behind by the Squarespaces and the Wixes who were doing an all-in-one platform service. WordPress was focused on just the templates and just the design software part of it. But now through WordPress.com, you can do the hosting as well as using those templates. They all kind of look the same in terms of the functionality. I'll just briefly, let's look at Squarespace as an option. You can go over to Squarespace. They have a lot of themes, a lot of templates. You can, there's some for community and nonprofit. And this will be kind of what your website ends up looking like. There's options for all of these to preview them. And this is where you can see kind of what they look like on different screen sizes, what it's going to look like in a window. We'll talk a little bit about how to actually end up making it look like this. A lot of this has to do with the pictures that are on here. The theme is going to manage the layout, though, where the buttons are, how it looks. You're kind of on your own, though, for making sure that these are cute and that these colors match the colors that, that are in here. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But it's super easy. You can start with that design, get a domain name, and manage everything through a platform like this. So it's super easy. One of the reasons why we really recommend, if you haven't done a website on your own before, it's worth it just to kind of figure it out so that you don't have to pay someone, you don't have to rely on a volunteer, and you can keep all the information current and up to date on your own. So some other thoughts on the website. Of course, a lot of this overlaps with the branding and marketing that we've talked about in this series. The design of the website is a huge part of your visual identity. Not only is it a way you can communicate information to folks who are interested in the organization, but it is part of your how people see you and see the work that you do. This is another great area where you can kind of steal other people's ideas. People who are running large organizations or larger businesses do spend a lot of money on their websites, especially at sort of enterprise level. There's a lot of different considerations in terms of security and stuff like that. So they do pay a lot of money for the designers and the folks that maintain the websites. So they also spend a lot of money on customer research to figure out, if we put the button here, how many people click on it? If we make the button yellow, how many people click on it? So I think a great strategy when you're just getting started, either as an organization or as a person managing your own website, find an organization that does this well, that's kind of like yours, and then try to replicate what they're doing. That way, a lot of those design decisions, a lot of that user experience stuff that they have paid money to really smart marketing firms to help them figure out, you can take advantage of that because you can see the end results of the work that they've done. So researching other organizations, when I was first starting out, I made my website just look like Apple's website at the time because I figured they must know how to do it. It was kind of a hybrid between Apple and Walmart. Because I figured they had the most money and we're going to, know best where, people's eyes go. There's a whole world of user experience and customer journey research of to the eyes of the user, go to the top left first and then to the top right. So your most important content should be in the top left. I can't remember if those are the right things or not, but uh, the idea that someone who has the money to invest in this has already done that and figured out what those things are and is structuring their website like that makes it a good opportunity to just kind of find someone that does it well and kind of replicate what they do. Again, as part of your visual identity, the fonts and the colors should match your overall branding. The colors are largely customizable in any of these platforms. The fonts are as well, especially if you're going with a Google font, like we talked about in the branding webinar. So making sure that they match, that you're consistent across your platforms, especially onto the website, that it's all part of one kind of cohesive visual brand strategy. We talked a little bit about this. The images matter. When you get a template, it will be structured for you to put images in certain places, but the quality of that image is a huge factor in how the website ends up looking. So in this example that we looked at, this template, if this is a really stretched out photo that you made to just fit this screen, this is going to look, and the experience of this is going to be very different, even though there will always be an image here. They can be an image here, an image here. What these images are is a huge factor in how the website is perceived by whoever's visiting. One thing to consider, if you don't have good high quality photos that would look good in that big setting on the top of the website, just like in that template, stock photos are actually a really great and easy option. It sounds like something that maybe you wouldn't do as a startup organization or someone who's not a marketing person. But it's actually really easy, and it's actually it's kind of fun to look through those. I got one of these up just to look at. I use, or Tiny Opera, we use Shutterstock for no real reason. I think there was a coupon maybe when we first got started. But say you're doing an event, a fundraising event, or your organization volunteers or organizes people to be volunteers. You can look up volunteer group of people, and for any of these, there are almost always hundreds of options. Like, these people have shirts that say volunteer. You might have even seen these images. It's fun when you start getting into the stock photo world, because then you'll start to see things in other people's websites or on other people's Facebook pages that you're like, oh yeah, I saw that one. I saw this image of everyone outside having a good time. These are going to come in really high resolution. They're going to be designed to look good in a variety of sizes. So again, this is an option to consider if you don't yet have a great image or a series of great images for the website. Stock photos are a great option. And in terms of pricing, they can be $10 or $15 a piece. So it's I think a high value again for something as important as the website. That can be worth the cost. What information should be on the website? This is another thing that there's a lot of different opinions on. I think it's another way or another area that you can kind of model what you're presenting on your website based on what some of the bigger players in your mission space are doing. Always kind of, about the founders, about the mission, upcoming events, that sort of thing. But there's also some organizations or some businesses like HubSpot, which is a marketing company. They have got some blogs that talk about, best websites or best sales website, best inbound marketing website. those are good places to look for inspiration to see how information is formatted and what information is on the website. I think as a general rule, a minimum, making sure that the information is up to date is key. Another thing to consider on the website is the CTA. We talked about this in fundraising a little bit, but what is your call to action on the website? What do you want people to do on your site? Do you want them to read the blog? Do you want them to sign up for a newsletter? Do you want them to donate $2 to your current campaign? Do you want them to come to an event or at least indicate that they're interested in coming to an event? Whatever you decide that is what you want people to do and to get out of your website. There's a concept of being above the fold. This is kind of an old newspaper term, but on the website, the most important information and the most important action step that you want from people should be immediately visible on the site. That's what above the fold means. You don't have to scroll down at all. It's on that very top immediate visibility space on the website. So if it's donate now, sign up for our newsletter, become a volunteer, those options need to be right there in the first visibility of the website. SEO is a concept that is talked about a lot. Some of y'all may be familiar with what this actually means. For some, it might be new information. This is basically how things like Google or how Google search indexes and helps people find websites. It's based on the information that the search engine can get from the website, and there's ways to optimize that information so that you show up higher on Google search results. If you're using a all-in-one platform, most of these already do this. So most of these already will organize the text in a way that is searchable. We'll put text in different headers that can make it searchable. So you don't really need to worry about this. I mean, I guess the point of this slide is to say that it's not really worth worrying about right now. If you're on a platform that does not have this integrated, there are some plugins and other tools that you can use for this. We use something called Yoast, which has a free option and also has a paid option that helps optimize our information on our website, not only for SEO, but for social media shares as well. So something else to consider. Website traffic is a great way to measure what people are doing on the site, how they're engaging, and also can give you good metrics for program evaluations and sort of impact reports like we talked about last week. These are a lot of good data points. If you are an awareness organization and you can say, hey, we brought this issue to the attention of 10,000 people last year through our website. Like, those are great metrics to say, and also great metrics to work on improving. So monitoring and making improvements to the website based on traffic and what people do, I think is really important. Again, if you're using an all-in-one platform like a Squarespace or like a Wix, these things will already be built into it, most likely. They'll have their own kind of reporting within their platform. If they don't, the kind of, as far as I know, industry standard of website analytics is called Google Analytics, and there's ways to set that up. That's something you'll probably need to look up based on where your platform is, where you're hosting it. But that information is available pretty easily. Setup can be a little bit tricky, but then you get all this ton of really sophisticated data and information that can help you continue to optimize the website and give you information about who's engaging with the organization online. I want to talk a little bit about the options that are available using Google for Business. Google has a lot of great productivity tools for running not only your personal life, but also running a business and also running a nonprofit organization. And because we're on Google Hangouts, they're probably listening to us right now, so we should probably say nice things about that. Hey, Google. Um, but seriously, Google is sort of setting the standard for how businesses communicate with each other in documents and sharing in an email. And nonprofits can get Google for Business for free. Even if you're not getting it for free, it's really cheap. It's $10 a month per person. But if you've got your nonprofit registration already up and running, it's something you can get for free. This Google Suite is not only access to the Gmail interface at your own domain email, but also Google Apps, which have some things that you might not have heard of before that we'll talk about, and also add-ons. So people are building plugins and extra things that augment the functionality of Gmail or Google Apps, and some of those can be really helpful. Gmail for Business, it's just like Gmail for your personal account, except you can get it set up so that it's at your nonprofit domain name, and it's really easy to control other people who are using that domain name. So if it's you as CEO or executive director at the domain.org and the volunteer has an email address, or somebody else on your team has one, managing what they have access to, what information they can see, all of that's really easy, and that's one of the nice things about having your nonprofit set up on Gmail for Business. Google Docs, you may already be familiar with these. These are Microsoft Office type programs that live in the cloud, so you can easily share, you can easily collaborate. Things like Google Sheets is kind of like Microsoft Excel. Google Docs, I think proper is what they use for their Microsoft Word. They work great. They're easy to share. It's easy to collaborate. It's easy for people to edit the same document at the same time. That's why a lot of people are using Google Docs. Google Drive, if you are not using this, it will come with your free Google Business subscription, and you get, I don't know what it is. It's a large amount of storage that you can use not only for their cloud files, but also any other documents, logos, branding materials, old proposals, grant reports. Those can be shared with anyone in your organization. They can be shared with people outside the organization. It makes it really easy for sharing internal resources, like branding materials, but it's also great for sharing files of all kinds with people in the organization and outside of the organization as well. Google Voice, we talked about this in the beginning. I think maybe the first of these webinars when we're talking about strategy and thinking about where to invest your time. Do you need an office? Do you need to have a phone number of your own? I think it's really important to have a separate phone line for the business. But that does not necessarily mean getting a new cell phone. Thanks to Google Voice, there's some other programs like it, but this is what we use at Tiny Opera House because it's really easy to manage. You can get a separate phone number that people can call. You can set that call to either forward through to your actual phone, or you've got a call texting that can come through there. Voicemail, you can get recorded voicemail. It'll even convert the recorded voicemail into an email that you can just read an email. It's not always a great transcription, but super easy. Again, it's free as well, as long as you're not making calls from the number, which is typically fine. You just need somewhere for people to access, to contact the organization and be able to follow up with them. And this Google Voice makes it really easy and free. Google Ads. This, I think, could be a whole separate webinar. We haven't really talked about paid advertising. I think we might have touched on it a little bit in the marketing webinar. One of the amazing things about Google and Google Ads are like when you type in things in the Google search, there will be little advertisements that pop up based on either what you typed in or based on what you have searched for previously. If you've got, if they are able, if they've got like a little cookie on you. nonprofits can apply for a $10,000 per month grant of AdWords, which is huge and can be really valuable and really important to anyone's nonprofit organization. It is a big deal that Google publicizes pretty well, but I feel like people still don't take advantage of it. But $10,000 a month of free advertising is a huge resource that you can get for your organization. It does take a little bit of work to figure out how to use these effectively, but there's tons of classes online for that. I think HubSpot has a great video tutorial about how to use Google Ads. We may do a Google Ad webinar just because this is such a valuable thing that you can get as a nonprofit, that we may do a whole webinar just talking about maximizing the impact from Google Ads. In addition to things that come built into Google Suite, there's a whole world of add-ons that are basically extra productivity tools that you can get for your organization that augment the normal functions of the Google Business Suite. Some of the ones that I really like and that we use currently, one is called Streak, and we'll talk about that. It is a CRM sales type tool. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. There's a thing called LinkedIn Sales Navigator that I like. It basically pops up, when you get an email, it pops up in the right side of the window, and we'll show you the social media accounts associated with the email that you're responding to, which can be really helpful to know really quickly some more demographic information or connection information about people that you're contacting. There's a thing called Boomerang that I like that helps you schedule emails in advance and will help you remember to follow up with people. But there's a ton of these things. It's a fun kind of research exercise to look into what are these things that are available, these tools, and see where they can be helpful and augment the functions that you've already got with the Google business. So the second half of this webinar, we're going to look at each of the sections that we've talked about in previous webinars and give you some more information about the tools that maybe we referenced them in a prior webinar, but give you kind of some specific recommendations for things that I personally like, that I've used in nonprofits before, or that I'm using right now with Tiny Opera House. Some of these, we're organizing this based on the same categories that we had in previous webinars. So for marketing and branding, we're really looking at email marketing tools, social media tools, and also some things that can help you on the design side with your branding. For email marketing, I tend to always recommend MailChimp. MailChimp is a really easy to use interface. It's also free for up to 2,000 contacts, which I imagine most of us are not there yet. There's also a lot of good blog and tutorial resources that they've built over the years that they've been in business. They have one specifically for nonprofits, specifically for arts organizations, specifically for human welfare organizations, to kind of best practices on how to optimize and maximize the impact of your emails, both with templates that they have, formatting suggestions, timing, how often should you connect with people. For most of us, email marketing is kind of the dominant form of communicating with our audience and communicating with our supporters. Using a platform makes it much easier to stay in touch with a lot of people at once. You, of course, can do small group emails through a regular email server, but in terms of sending out newsletters and event announcements and things like that, it really makes a lot of sense, and it's going to make your life a lot easier if you organize these in some sort of email marketing platform. And again, we like MailChimp because it's free, it's easy, and it also integrates well with other apps. And we'll talk about this towards the end of the presentation on how to keep your information and your data the same in different platforms. So MailChimp is great for that, and we'll talk more about this in a little bit. One thing that's if you were just starting out with an email list, there are lots of federal rules about who you're allowed to contact and how often you're allowed to contact, what sort of things you have to have in there. Another great thing about an email marketing platform is it has those legal restrictions and requirements already built into the framework of how the platform works. But if you are going from zero to email marketing expert in a short period of time, you can export the list of contacts that you're already engaging with, either in Gmail or if you're using an Outlook or using some sort of other email provider. You can export an address list from there as a starting point. So then that gives you a list that you can contact and say, hey, we're starting a newsletter. Do you want to keep receiving these emails and stay connected with all the great stuff we're doing? So kind of like a little instant email list based on just your normal communications you've had with people in the past. In terms of tools for social media, the main thing we're looking for here is automating and scheduling. So social media is exhausting to everyone in the world. Maybe it's exhausting to me. I think some people do like it. For me, it is always this constant thing that I have to remember to do, and I have to kind of force myself to do it. Something that makes that a lot easier is using something that that enables you to schedule post to social media in advance. So things like Hootsuite, there's another one called Buffer, another one called Zoho Social. They all kind of do the same thing, and they all have some sort of limited plan that's free. But the idea behind automating is that you can spend one concentrated hour to do all of your social media engagement for the whole week, or for a couple of days at least. Which is a more efficient use of your time than 23 or 17 or 36 sets of little 10-minute increments where you go in and post something on Facebook, because then while you're there, you're going to look at what other people are doing. Then you're kind of wasting time. So scheduling things in advance makes it a lot easier. Makes it easier for you to stay on point in terms of communication strategy. If your goal is to talk about something specific, it's easier to remember that and do a whole series of consistent posts based on that all at once. And again, most of these are free on some level. So it's just a matter of kind of which one you like best or which one works the best for you. Design tools, there's a lot of these that we've talked about. We won't go through all of them, but this will live here as a downloadable reference, or if you're watching this later on YouTube to remember kind of what we're talking about. There's a lot of things out there that can help you do the design work of your organization without having to hire a graphic designer. The two ones that I like, 99 Designs and Fiverr. These are really cool. I'm actually going to show you what Fiverr looks like. These are really cool, easy to use tools for getting cheap freelance graphic design labor. So Fiverr.com, you can look up, if you look into, what's available in graphics, say you need a new logo or you need a brochure design. Freelance consultants will post things that they're willing to do and how much it costs. So, this guy will make you 2 logos for $25. I mean, it's pretty cheap. You can't beat that. It's amazing the number and amount of services you can get on Fiverr. 99 Designs is the same way. It's a little bit more of a design competition. It's instead of vendors posting what they'll do for money, you post what you're looking for and what you're willing to pay, and then people kind of bid on that and send you examples of what type of work they can do. But if you think, oh, I need a flyer or I need a poster designed, it's this is a good place to look for getting that work done. Some of these other ones, just because they're fun, if you are looking into colors that coordinate, we talked about the images of websites being important, but it's also one of the reasons this looks nice is because this little color, green or blue or whatever color that is, matches this overall color. In a way that you do that is through color scheme designers. There's a science to it. So, if you go back into our branding webinar, you can look at this in more detail. But if we wanted a button that matches this color, we could use our medicine dropper tool to pull one of the colors that's already in this image and then dump it in this platform, and it'll give us a bunch of other colors that are complementary or that will go with that color. So that's how people make things look nice. Pixlr is one I'm not going to show you, but it's a great free image editing tool. There's a marketplace called Graphic River that I think is really underutilized and sort of is a little bit of a secret. I don't think it's a secret, but designers buy templates for lots of things. Like if you are getting a proposal designed, a lot of times they come from these marketplaces of pre-designed things. So the Graphic River is a place you could, let's say you need a flyer. They will give you options of flyers that are already kind of put together in templates. Like, here's a Thanksgiving flyer. Here's a nightclub. Ooh, are we running a nonprofit nightclub? Maybe we should. Chess club. There's a chess club flyer. Like, it gets really specific in terms of what's available. It's 88,000 flyer templates, and they're all like $10 or $5. Sorting by bestsellers, you can see what people are actually buying. These white parties, people love to do those as fundraisers. You pay a couple bucks and you download. It's got the images, it's got the fonts, it's got all that already kind of built into it, and then you can change the information. Finding something that matches your overall branding is key, but with all these options, you'll be able to find something that works. It's a fun kind of way to waste a lot of time too, because it's amazing what all stuff they have available that you can get. It's also good for like proposals and things that are that need to look nice. You can do brochures and packaging, signage, all kinds of stuff. Okay. We looked at Shutterstock all right a little bit. I think this is another kind of underutilized tool of small organizations because it feels like something that should be fancier than it is as a process, but it's actually it's really easy and really make you look again like what you're doing on a more in-depth way than maybe you already do. Next section, we talked a little bit about technology in a previous webinar about in program management. Most of this, in terms of program technology, is the ability to collect information from the folks that we're helping, the folks that we're working with. So these are basically survey tools. There's a couple kind of standard ones. SurveyMonkey has been around for a long time. They'll all give you the ability to, create fields and collect data that's easy. Someone can fill it out online. You can have a tablet or a laptop add an event. Someone can fill it out. Typeform is one that I've just recently learned about, and it's really designed. It's kind of cute, and it doesn't feel super form-ish. There's also a Google form, which can be a great option if you're using the other Google apps, because there's some integrations there that you can take advantage. With any of these surveys, the tool I think is not as important as the thoughtfulness that goes into designing the questions. And in our program management webinar, we talked about some good resources for how what questions should you ask, how should they be phrased. So if you missed that one, you can go check us out on YouTube and catch up on that. You can also just do some Google searches about nonprofit impact measurement surveys or something like that. It's also nice if you are using an email service or a CRM. It's nice to pick one of these that integrates with the email that you're already doing. I think you can even do forms and surveys through MailChimp now. That can be really easy if the people you're trying to collect information from are the people on your mailing list. Otherwise, one of these other services can be helpful. In terms of fundraising, most of the software that comes up in fundraising are customer relationship management platforms. Sometimes this is even referred to as donor relationship management. So CRM is the acronym. Sometimes it's, I think, donor management system is the other one. So a CRM or a DMS, basically the same thing. It's ways to collect information from your contacts, know when their birthdays are, know if they gave $5 last week, know if they gave $1,000 last year, know if their spouse or partner or business is donating. It's an intentional way to keep track of as much information about your supporters as you can, so that you can identify new opportunities and new prospects for generating money and keeping people who have given in the past giving into the future and engaged in the organization. There are a ton of these things out there. People love to build CRM and donor management systems. There's one that I like and that I use called Streak. I like it because it's one of these Gmail add-ons I talked about earlier. It has this pipeline funnel functionality. We talked about that in the fundraising webinar about this idea of moving people down different stages of the funnel. It's a free add-on. It collects conversations in Gmail, which I really like, so that it's automatically giving me a record of the contact and the communication that I've had with these folks already. It looks like this, where you can have people that are identified as prospects, leads. This is your funnel. It's kind of a horizontal funnel, but you move people from one box to the next, and that's how you can sort of keep on track of being intentional with your sales management and your sales pipeline. And as we know, fundraising is just sales. So there's a ton of other platforms. People like to make ones. They have all cute names and logos that are giraffes and things. In terms of functionality, they all will kind of do the same thing because it's not a terribly difficult concept. People in the old days and old sales movies were doing this in Rolodex. You can do it. You could write them all on Post-it notes. You could do it all in Excel. The platform is not going to help you be successful if you're not putting the information in there in an intentional way. So I would really think more about, am I ready to commit the time and the discipline that it takes to keep up with this information in this way? Or the platform is not going to make you do it. The platform is going to make it easier for you to do it, but if you're not in a place where you're ready to really do this type of work yet, the platform's not going to help. So that's what I would focus on more. Once you have decide that you want to do it, you can find the platform that fits best for you. One thing that a lot of nonprofits do, Salesforce is a tremendously powerful, gigantic software thing that can do customer relationship management. It can do volunteer management. It can do kind of anything. It's a very robust enterprise platform, and it's free for nonprofit organizations. It feels like a really great deal, but Salesforce is really complicated, and you can spend as much time and a lot of money invested into consultants and design and build out of a platform that was supposed to be free. So just something to consider before you get excited about Salesforce is really make sure you understand how you're going to use it, who's going to maintain this information, uh, before you go down that road and potentially spend a lot of time on something that you end up not getting a lot of value out of. Just because it's free doesn't mean you have to do it. Okay, financial management. Of course, we have a financial management tool that we really like, and it's called Tiny Opera House, and it is designed specifically to help uh, small organizations or people who are new to doing this type of work, who are not CPAs, who are not even really accounting literate at all. It's designed for them to be able to be successful managing the finances of their organization. I'll show you a little bit of this just because we haven't done that yet in this series. But this is what our platform looks like. We've got a great dashboard that's got a ton of really helpful information. We sync directly with the bank account of your organization. You can also do credit cards. You can sync with PayPal. We bring that information in automatically, so there's no manual data entry for transactions. And then we can show you all this really great stuff. We can show you live balances of restricted funds, like if you've got money that's left in grants. This is something that cannot even do in QuickBooks. But because of how we structured this system and because we're building it specifically for nonprofits like those of you that are listening, we can do all this sort of big level functionality in a product that's only $10 a month and easy to use. The workflow for the bookkeeping is mostly like a question and answer prompt. So transactions come in automatically. We'll ask you narrative questions about, oh, what was this? We can get some information from the bank. What was this? Oh, maybe we got a donation. It'll ask you, who gave you the money, what organization or individual gave you the money. These things sync with MailChimp and Google Contacts, so you're always looking at the same information in all of your systems. If it's an organization, you can add those in here and keep track of it. We'll always ask you the classification, the big three that the IRS likes you to report on: program, fundraising, and management. You can also set up restricted funds. So if this was a grant or this person or organization gave you the money and said you can only spend it on a specific thing, we can do that built in here. We also sync with Eventbrite and other ticketing platforms so that we can show comprehensive event financials. A lot of organizations at this size are very event focused. So that's a great feature and integration to have. You can add notes if you do this from your phone. Everything is designed to work well on mobile. That's why it's this size. It'll open your camera. You can take a picture of a receipt and keep track of that with this transaction. And then that's it. That is the whole experience with bookkeeping. Again, it's designed for people who have never done this before, but have great ideas, great passion. We want to help folks who are trying to do good in their communities or do good in the world focus their time on that and not on